Right, well, summer in Johannesburg, summer in South Africa means that it is cricket season, and because of that, it is time for us to get stuck right into the Mzansi Super League and, of course, many other topics of discussion. A man that I've had the pleasure of chatting to for many, many years, and now the CEO of Cricket South Africa, Thabang Moroe. I say now the CEO of Cricket South Africa because you've been the CEO for quite some time, but you and I have a very long history chatting back in radio days when you were still dealing with provincial cricket. You've come a very, very long way, Thabang.
Yeah, it's been a long, interesting route, Mark, and I'm enjoying my time at CSA. Obviously, you know, I've learnt a lot, quite a lot, and looking forward to the future.
Mzansi Super League, we're very excited about the second edition of the competition when we were perhaps a little more apprehensive around the opening edition for various reasons. Has everything stabilized now to make this arguably the biggest and best version of the MSL that we're going to see in South Africa to date?
Yeah, definitely. It's stabilized a bit more than it was last season. You know, even this year, we had a lot of work to get through in terms of commercial agreements that we needed to work on and eventually sign in order to get the league over the line for this year's edition, which essentially means for us, you know, from you know, the commercial side of things, next year there isn't really that much work to do except working hard on getting sponsors in. So really next year's edition should be, you know, that much more bigger than, you know, what this year currently is. We're working hard on our marketing campaigns to make sure that towards the later stages of the competition, then we can get even more bums on seats and you know, see more exciting action as far as the cricket field is concerned.
From a media point of view, I was quite heavily involved in the opening edition of the competition last year, and I recall you and your team being put massively under the pump to try and turn things around from what was meant to be the Global League T20, and how you guys were able to pull the inaugural version out of the fire. Does that suggest, Dan, that with a bit of time and a bit of stability, that this edition was far easier to run, far easier to put together based on how tough the inaugural version was? Yeah,
this year's edition, to be quite honest, was easier than last year's one. You know, and we continue to grow as a competition. I know that, you know, the broader South African community, when they look at the league, they'll say, you know, we need to have more bums on seats, which is actually very true. But on the TV space, we continue to grow. We're currently the second most watched, you know, T20 league in the world, you know, behind IPL. The gap between us and IPL is still pretty massive. But, you know, 2 years in existence and to be, you know, ahead of the Big Bash and the Pakistan League is quite a massive feat for us as Cricket South Africa, and only shows, you know, what more we can achieve if we just give this competition some decent legs to run, if we get the proper support that we need around the tournament.
You mentioned the bums on seats, and that is understandably a problem, probably around sport in South Africa in general, but I feel in particular the Mzansi Super League has been poorly attended. Is that a major issue for you? I mean, how do we try and turn that around? Because if I may, there was a game at the Wanderers not too long ago where I think the overall number was 2,800 people. Surely that is not a very good look for the competition.
No, definitely it's not a good look. But, you know, to be quite honest, we also have to delve a little bit deeper and look at the previous competitions we've hosted as Cricket South Africa, domestic competitions that is, and look at the attendance there. It's been just as poor, if I may put it that way. And as that, you know, one has to look at, you know, the Paarl Rocks and, you know, their stadium there in Boland, and look at the amount of people they're attracting there. And at that, you have to understand that it's people who've been hungry for some cricket content, because the stadium is placed in a township. So access is also one of our problems for our South African people. You know, not many people can afford to get to the stadiums and still leave as late as the matches finish. Not everybody's got access to a car to be able to make it to the ground. So those are some of the things we need to work on to make sure that we can get those bums on seats, and not only on the seats, but actually help in getting people back home as well.
You mentioned key words there: access, hunger, townships. In light of all of that, why are we still seeing the Mzansi Super League at the Wanderers, at Newlands, at Kingsmead? Why is it not going to Potch? Why is it not going to Bloemfontein, somewhere to the Eastern Cape, somewhere in the Northern Cape, for example? Isn't this the perfect competition then to take the game to the people, for lack of a better term?
The competition is a perfect one to take to the people, but it's a very valid question that you ask. And, you know, we need to go back to the drawing board and look at our strategy and say, are we actually taking it to the right stadiums? And, you know, what would be, you know, the right answers in terms of moving matches around. So I've got a few ideas of my own, and I'm sure the guys in marketing and comms have some ideas as well. So we just need to sit, have a brainstorm session, and then present something to the board and members alike, and see if it's something that would be workable. Go back to the broadcasters and see if they'll have an appetite for the ideas that we have in terms of what is it that we can do to attract more bums on seats, to attract more spectators around our matches, and then hopefully it will work for us.
You make a good point that the competition is barely 2 years old. In fact, it's a year and a couple of weeks old. So I think you have a lot of time to try and turn things around. You mentioned the IPL, which I think now is going, into a 12th season. So you have plenty of time to get all of these things settled. So I have no doubt that the rest of 2019 for the Mzansi Super League will be a massive success. And it will continue to grow, as you say, both commercially and, of course, from a team and player and fan point of view. If you don't mind, I would obviously like to take the discussion around some governance issues as well. We speak about
100%.
the Mzansi Super League potentially having a bad look from a stadium point of view, but I feel that there's no denying the fact that the current situation at Cricket South Africa probably doesn't give the association itself a very good look from a governance point of view as well, from a director of cricket point of view. Is there an update that you can share with us?
We sent out the post of the director of cricket. We had interviews. And, the unfortunate incident happened last week, but, we stick to our timelines as Cricket South Africa. And at that, we want to appoint the right man for the job. We've never had this position before as Cricket South Africa, so we're trying as best as we can to get it right. Having said that, there will be, a mistake or mistakes that we make in terms of how we approach, the appointment thereof. But the one thing that we're not going to do is get rushed into doing this thing, into appointing this person who's going to be the first director of cricket under Cricket South Africa. As I said, it's a massive, massive, appointment, and we're not taking it lightly from an operations point of view. I can tell you that the board is not taking it lightly as well. We're brainstorming, we're talking about around this position on a daily basis with the leadership of the board. And as I said, it's in the best interest of Cricket South Africa that we take our time and make sure that ultimately we appoint the best person for the job, who's almost a perfect fit, if I may put it that way. Somebody who will understand the cricket side of things, the business side of things, because they'll be just as important commercially for us. And a person who also understands the administrative part of the game. So having said that, we are pushing, as I said, we're sticking to our deadlines, and hopefully, in time we can make an announcement around the appointment of the DOC.
Graham Smith is entitled to his views, as is everyone around the country, but one of his concerns was seemingly around the lack of control that the role would have. Are you able to break down for us, what kind of role the director of cricket would have? Is it one that does, encapsulate 100% control of the team? Is it more a guidance role alongside the coach of the side? I mean, what exactly would the director of cricket be able to do, and to what capacity would that be able to do?
Yeah, so the director of cricket, as far as the teams themselves are concerned, his powers would end and, begin and end with them appointing the manager of the team, being the previously termed coach. So you would appoint the coach of the men's team, you'd appoint the coach of the women's team, the under-19s, and then that's literally where your power stops, because now, the team director, being the coach, now takes over in compiling who he feels should be their support staff and how they're going to run their team. And then the director of cricket would now then go into the high-performance space, appoint the high-performance manager, and then roll out the high-performance plan with the high-performance manager. So that hasn't changed. That's still the plan. We're sticking to that plan. And as I said, because we've never had this role before, we want to give it legs. We want to appoint the right person and make sure that this person has got all the support that they need in executing, all their KPIs as far as all their duties as far as this role is concerned.
Names are obviously floating around. We mentioned Graham now. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, that Corey van Zyl was still interviewed for the position as well. I've seen Hussein Manik's name being thrown around. Is there a front runner that is, please, if not, of course, don't share it now. Of course, if you'd like to, you can. But do you have a front runner in mind, or is it still very much unknown to you who seemingly seems to be the front runner?
No front runner at the moment, but as you just said, names are being thrown around. But like I said, on our end, we're not going to, succumb to any pressure to try and appoint the person as soon as tomorrow. We want to make sure that we dot, as many I's as we can, cross as many T's as we can to get to that finish line and make sure that, Cricket South Africa is serviced properly at the end of the day.
You mentioned not being under pressure and you won't be, pushed into a corner. But that said, does this role then need to be fulfilled before the England tour comes to South Africa? Because that doesn't quite leave you a huge amount of time either, though, does it?
Correct. So those are the timelines that we had set ourselves, to fill the role before England comes here, so that this director of cricket can work closely with the team director, and we can gauge, the charisma between the two of them, and see, how they would roll out their plans going forward into the World T20 World Cup. But having said that, one can easily say that should the need arise for us to go back, re-advertise, and start even inviting internationals to apply, nothing is stopping us from doing such.
Can I ask you for more confirmation or just some clarity on before is a very relative term, because before could suggest the 24th of December. Therefore, you have reached your target in appointing the director of cricket before the tour. That said, though, surely they would need as much time as possible before the tour. So is there a deadline cut-off day that you've given said person, perhaps 2 or 3 weeks, to be able to sit down with the team before the tour starts?
As things stand, the deadline we had set ourselves was for this Friday. Okay. So that would be what before means. But as I said, on Friday we'll sit around the table, we'll discuss on the way forward. And if we're happy with where we are, we'll announce, our decision as an organization in terms of how we're taking this role forward.
Is it likely that on Friday we'll hear an announcement?
50-50 at the moment.
Okay, 50-50 at the moment.
Yep.
If there is, actually I want to take away the if, whether there is an announcement on Friday or not, please can I invite you back in the studio next week, because I feel that regardless of which way this discussion goes, perhaps there is a lovely follow-up to be had then next week.
Sure, no problem.
Possible. I'll make sure that your lovely banner hangs around. We'll put your face up in the studio as well.
I like it, yeah.
Listen, Thabang, thank you for your time. I always appreciate you being very open and chatting about some tough issues. I think that's perhaps why you are the administrator that you are. We appreciate your time as always, and best of luck, of course, for the Mzansi Super League. But arguably, many South Africans will be saying for the appointment of the director of cricket role as well. I have no doubt that it is not a mean feat to try and find someone who will be the right man going forward.
Correct. No, thank you for having me, and it's been my pleasure.
All right, there we go. Thabang Moroe joining us in studio, the Cricket South Africa CEO. I would not take his job for love or money, I assure you. Some very tough meetings to be had, and hopefully, according to the CEO, we will hear an announcement this Friday. 50-50 call, if or not, a new director of Cricket South Africa will be appointed ahead of that inbound tour of England. Bear in mind, they come to South Africa, they play next month. The Boxing Day test, 26th of December, that first test match gets underway. So the director of cricket will certainly be under the pump to get in, get settled, and try and get this team back to winning ways after what has been a pretty difficult 2019 thus far. That is where we leave it for now. Plenty more cricket throughout the rest of the summer, of course. This is News at Prime. This is 405. Welcome to the show.